we can talk about my thoughts. Happy to.
Interrogate your thoughts. um,
Yes.
so we've done one of these before. Herman's little email thoughts, triggers, ideas that you pose to colleagues and friends to get their minds working, thinking about sometimes controversial topics or something that might, I don't know, shock people or give you pause.
Well, shock. I'm not going for shock value. Maybe
You
I should
often do.
consider. Maybe I should consider going for shock value. I wonder what it'll look like if I go for shock value. I'll write one for myself. Well, I'll write one for shock value.
Well, I mean, your second statement there to me is quite shocking, and I want to ask you about it. Is
Oh,
it possible
okay,
to be a
okay.
socialist and also not be a racist?
Well, so again, just for clarity, these are thoughts that come up, and instead of just letting them go, I maybe make a note of them, and then I think about these things.
Hmm.
I wonder, why did I have that thought, or what sparked that thought, and then I'm trying to, okay, cool, can I explain my thinking, or in a case like this, well, there's nothing really to explain other than I want whoever I send this to think about it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, as I always say in the introduction, if I'm lucky enough, they'll share their thoughts with me, um, which does happen sometimes. But anyway, in this case, I was really trying to think, and it was either at the height of some protest or some event or whatever that that the socialists were very vocal, and it just occurred to me that they are all racist as well. So
Is there a specific racial group that the racism is
no,
directed at, or
well, generally, but so it's generally directed at white people. Um, but also, if you more recent events, it is towards a specific nation, for example. That
Mhm.
also happens. Um, so it's often the socialists. I could have said communists,
Well, I was
very
actually,
closely related.
yeah, I was Googling it just before to try and get the definition for myself between socialism and communism, and I didn't find a,
No,
a good
there's,
separator between the two.
yeah, there's not a hell of a lot that separates the two. So generally, those are people that like to blame somebody else for. Uh, so in other words, this whole thing about reparations, if only white people would give us X, or the colonists would, the colonizers would give us X, Y, and Z, etc., then everything's going to be fine.
Hmm.
It's not. It's the system. There's always that blame,
Yeah.
and it, in my mind, inevitably goes back to racism. Look at what's happening in the in Israel, Gaza. And it doesn't matter what you think is wrong or right about this, from a political point of view. Just look at the protests, and I think it's died down a little bit now. Remember, I made this remark long before this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the protests that took place, and then eventually people started kind of going to these things and sticking mics in people's faces and ask them, do they really understand what it is that they're protesting?
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than 9 out of 10 that didn't really understand the cause that they are. Anyway, so that's just my. And you know what? I obviously put a statement like that out there, and I'm hoping somebody will come back to me and say to me, "No, no, no, no.
You've
Here's an
got this wrong,
example."
or
Yes,
yeah.
and then I'll go, "Oh, okay, cool. I can put this to bed now."
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, socialists, I've been wrong about this, but nobody has come back to me, and I've also gone through a lot of, not a lot of, but some personal experiences. People that are not socialist in a political way, but they the bleeding hearts.
Mm-hmm. That everyone
Um,
deserves everything.
that type of,
Yeah.
yes, those type of people. And then you just look through their bullshit and you see, well, okay, cool, you're also a racist. Um, anyway, so these are kind of my experiences that got me to that point.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping somebody will convince me otherwise.
Well, let us know if they do, because I'd like to hear the
I
arguments
will.
too.
I will. Okay. But how we got onto that one is, as you said, I sometimes make these
Shocking.
shocking. Okay. I did not mean to make it shocking. Thought-provoking is what I'm going for.
That's such a chat GPT term. Whenever I use chat
Really?
GPT to like write me something, it always, or to describe an episode of the podcast or something like that, it always tells me it's thought provoking.
Oh my goodness. I'm starting to, like you just pointed out there, I'm
Yeah.
starting to pick up some of these phrases,
Yeah.
which if I see something with that word or that word repeated more than once or that phrase, then I know, okay, this was
Yeah.
not your work. This was
Yeah.
not, yes.
Full disclosure, I do use
Which
it
is,
to summarize the podcasts.
no, you have to. I mean, you
Yeah.
you you obviously, if you're not using it for a number of things, then then you're just not using the tools to your availability. But
Hmm.
anyway, it is interesting and nice to kind of start picking up these tells.
Yeah.
So if you thought that that was a uh, shocking statement, what did you make of lazy and stupid flock to extreme ideologies?
Well, I agree. I think extreme ideologies are stupid,
And
so you must be
and
stupid to go along with it.
and therefore it was not shocking
No,
at
that one
all.
didn't shock me at all because I was in
Okay.
full agreement. The first one we spoke about, it didn't shock me because I disagreed. It just I think using the term racist and calling people racist is like societally shocking. So I think that that's more. It was like the racist term jumped out as like.
Right. So we can skip down to to another statement here. Society is corrupt.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, no. Look, I thought that some of the things that I mentioned under that point about lazy and stupid
Yeah.
flock to extreme ideologies. Because I make the point there that it's easier for people to rally around shared hatred than shared values. And again, the Palestinian situation, the pick whatever, whether it was BLM, whether it was, I don't know, pick whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It is the shared hatred
Yeah.
that kind of get people to come out and glue themselves to the road and
To change.
damage,
Yeah.
yes, all
Um,
sorts of stupid things.
I do also think we can relate that to, in a way, to a business context, and something that I have noticed a lot is that it's easier to point out problems than it is to come up with solutions. So we can all see
Yes,
that something's wrong. I mean, when it comes to these groups and whatever, everyone can point out that something isn't
correct.
working, but they don't come up with anything better. So it's just kind of throwing your toys and having a tantrum
Yes,
with no preferable outcome to the situation. Like, what could be better?
co- correct. And obviously also pointing out that it's not my fault.
Yeah, someone else needs to come up with the solution.
Yes,
I'm just telling you
somebody must
that
sort this
something's
out.
wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So it is applicable in a business or in a work sense as well. Um, the the further point that I made there is that it kind of explains to me why people follow despots. These absolutely uh, unhealthy, unsavory characters.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are so many. Um, and then this is where the shocking part of this little piece come in is I made the statement here that said 50% of people have below average intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
but 95% of people think they have above average intelligence.
Yeah.
And I did point out there that is a published statistic. I mean, you can find I actually have the source somewhere,
Yeah.
so it's not something that I just made up.
I would love to meet the
Um,
5% because I've never met someone who thinks they are below average intelligence.
they are very smart people who they obviously know that they are intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't necessarily think of themselves as smarter than smart. Okay, so they obviously don't think that they are exactly, they have the same IQ as an average person. Um, yeah, I don't even want to get into kind of some of the examples there because that may just put us off on a tangent. The really important point for me around that is that of all these people that have below average intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
they are put in charge of things that they should not be put in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
They get to make really important decisions, whether that is at work, whether that is in a voting booth,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a number of other um, instances. But I don't think, I suppose it ties it back to the the failed concept of democracy for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Which
okay, cool,
brought
we
up a few
all have
times.
this, yes, you know,
Mm.
it's like we all have the same say. Doesn't matter what your contribution is to society, it doesn't matter. So, to be fair, you know, it's not like I'm saying, listen, people with an IQ below this are useless or worthless or whatever. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that it is better to know where you fall in that spectrum and then find things where you can make a meaningful contribution.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem. If you take all of the leaders of the all democratically elected countries in the world, do you think that all of these people are intellectually up to the challenges that they have to deal with on a daily basis? I don't think so.
No.
There's no test, there's no.
Yeah.
And so you go through the corporate world, you see people are, we're all familiar with the Peter principle, you know, where you are promoted to the next level of incompetence. So you take people that are really good at a job,
Yeah.
they perform well, and then what do you do with them? Well, you promote them. And then you take some of these things that they're really good at, you take that away from them and you give them, I don't know, some responsibilities that they are not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so we continue. And then we have, on top of that, we have Black economic empowerment. We have DEI, which, I mean, enough, there are now very good examples of where DEI has really, really um, harmed the company or the organization, etc. I mean, the most famous one is Harvard,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where, and that is so prevalent. Doesn't matter where, but we're not allowed to say these things. We're not allowed to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to, um, it, it, it all has to be about what is your race, and based on what your race is, you are either allowed to say something or not,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so wrong. Um, so this huge disconnect between ability and responsibility is kind of like why do I, why do these thoughts come up again? You know, it's just like, okay, cool, general elections.
Yeah.
We just look at what's happening in in a lot of the countries. You know, we see a lot of protest action taking place in Europe. Well, we don't really see it on mainstream media, you know. But farmers have been
Yeah.
from Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, the UK.
Yeah. They had the tractor rally yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So people are sick and tired. The what is it, Prime Minister of Ireland or whatever that resigned now recently. We have the Prime Minister of Scotland who says there are too many white people in Scotland. It's like, it's like, really, this is where we got ourselves. And we have all of these national elections coming up in this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and because I honestly believe, and we've seen it, we've definitely seen it where people will go out and join a march, and you know, um, very happily wave a Palestinian flag and chant from the river to the sea. And when they asked what it means, they'd have no clue. And those same people are going to go into a voting booth. And we tell ourselves that we have a democracy and we should be very happy and the will of the people.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant about
Those are
lazy
your
and
thoughts.
stupid.
So let's get to the solution. Do you think everyone should be IQ tested before allowed to make decisions that affect the rest of society?
So so yes, I do think that there's a couple of things that we can do to improve
Yeah.
democracy. But I think before we get there, we have to start at right at the bottom. We've got to fix the education systems.
Yeah.
So, it is not in most countries, it is not um, allowed to do an IQ test on a child anymore. Okay, because we are all brilliant and we can all become astronauts if we want to, and all that bullshit. So we don't know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, so what has happened? And again, it was um, it is not just in the third world. In fact, some countries that are classified as third world, I think, are much better at this. But anyway, so even in the first world, we are now just lowering the standards. So, what are the statistics in America about at what, I don't know, but practically people of the age of 15 years old cannot really read.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Well,
that's
also, I
okay.
mean, it's been for a long time the pass rate the pass mark in South Africa is like below 30% or something, which,
Correct. Yeah, we kept lowering that. We kept
yeah,
lowering that until we get to an acceptable level
yeah,
of um, of you know people who
matriculants,
actually
yeah.
finish matric.
Mm,
Now, the same is happening in other countries as well, where you know it is. I don't know. It is. We've heard this before. It is racist that to say to ask somebody what is 2 plus 2 and explain yourself. How did you get there? That is. Um, so so they actually change. Anyway, so my point is let's go back to that. We've got to know if you have a child, don't you think you want to know exactly what you're dealing with?
mm-hmm.
Or are you just going to one day kind of think, geez, okay, is this kid ever going to get a job? Is this kid ever going to amount to anything? Do we just keep on hoping, etc.? Or you actually say, listen, this is where you will fit into society in terms of um, what your abilities are.
Yeah.
Now, again, I fully understand that there are people who are kind of on the spectrum of autism, etc., who are extremely brilliant people. There are people who are dyslexic, that they're not stupid. They just
Mm-hmm.
so I'm all for that. I'm all for changing the schooling system to accommodate the different styles of learning.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think we have to know what we're dealing with here. In the workplace, I would love to be able to know what is it that I'm dealing with
Yeah.
in terms of people, because that's a simple transaction. Somebody sells certain skills and time in exchange for a salary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go and buy a box of apples and half of them are not so nice anymore, you're going to be upset about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas I have to go, let me see how I can make these little apples fresh. It's not, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't help those people. Because we all have to pretend that you're smart as hell and that you can become anything that you, and we have to do leadership training and we have to do personal coaches and all this bullshit. And I don't think it gets us anywhere
Mm-hmm.
as a society.
Do you think it all comes down to a single test, or do you think there would be multiple tests? It's not just about IQ. I mean, does EQ come into it? Does
Listen, EQ is a skill.
so that can be
EQ is
taught?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard this argument so many times about, oh, it's not about IQ, EQ is. Yes, it is important. It is important to have certain of those skills. But if you think about it, a lot of those EQ skills can be taught.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make a huge difference if you actually knew what level of IQ you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Is there, this is me not knowing enough about it at all. I've done an IQ test when I was younger, but it probably wasn't an official one. Is there like an IQ test, like the IQ test that exists that would
I don't think
standardize?
I don't think so. Um, because when I came across this research, and I should have actually noted the researcher's name, but it's somebody who's been doing this research, and there's like a website with around the world, every country, the average, and they
Oh,
kind of
I've seen that. Yeah.
goes into quite a detailed explanation
Yeah.
of
The
how
average
the
IQ in
research,
different countries
yes,
and okay.
and how the research is conducted and that sort of thing. Uh, excuse me, but I do know that, like with so many of these things, there's a lot of arguments about um, how it's tested. And I fully agree with that. I don't think you can take a kid who has not had access and exposure to the internet, for example, and a kid who has had um, an iPad from the age of 18 months and access to all of these things. I don't think you can compare those two kids.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there are smart enough people that have figured out, okay, cool, how do we test these things?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I must say that I also think, and I haven't really researched this, so this is just I think that your IQ can increase or improve over time. So if you put in the right environment, etc., and you apply yourself, then you
Yeah.
can do that.
Is the opposite true?
I'm sure the opposite is true. Huh, that's an interesting one. But I'm sure it is true,
Mm-hmm.
which I think explains why when people reach that lifelong goal of retirement and they see that it actually just means sitting around doing nothing, they actually
Regress.
wither away.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh, that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, I do want to actually look into IQ a little bit more after
Yeah.
this conversation. I knocked my head on the kitchen cupboard last week really hard and burst into tears, and my my worst thought in that moment was not how much pain I was in, it was that I've lost some brain cells and I'm not as clever as I was before. So I've been eating brain food to try and
Uh,
I've been having my walnuts and my berries
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
trying to repair my brain that I knocked very hard.
Oi, oi, oi. Shame. Yeah, no. I'm going shame for the actual bump. That must have been sore. But um,
I've got an egg.
I think I think you're 100% correct there. I do think that if you don't do not use
Yeah.
your your IQ can actually go down.
Well, people talk about the brain as a muscle and that you have to exercise it. And I mean, there's all these things that you can do. Like if you do a crossword puzzle, if you do Sudoku, if you do these things, like your mind
Yeah,
will stay sharper for
yeah, yeah,
longer.
yeah.
So there must be something
Absolutely,
in that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Also exercise and that sort of thing. So you've got to, yeah.
Eating your walnuts and
Anyway,
berries.
no, 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 no. Don't do that. That, that is not brain food.
Just a steak.
uh, the look, you asked what is the solution to that, and I said, we've got to go back to the thing where we where we test children
Mm-hmm.
and then we fix the education system. I truly believe that, but I also think that you know, as adults, um, we are quite eager to do personality tests, to do a Myers-Briggs or
Disc.
whatever,
Yeah.
whichever, because you feel like you can't fail this thing. Okay.
Well, because a
Uh,
team is made up of many personalities, and it's just about knowing what the personalities are and being able to handle them.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so is a society made up of people with lots and lots of different skills and personalities,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And the better we understand who we are, if I understand that I'm an introvert and not an extrovert, okay, cool. That kind of okay, cool. Don't think that you're going to become a XYZ. If you have these certain personality traits and so on, well, you know, maybe you shouldn't attempt to do certain jobs. And same thing with your ability, your intelligence. Um, People can be guided much better into fulfilling careers and not end up in jobs that they hate, that they get no fulfillment or enjoyment, they don't really make a positive contribution. Um, I think it does more harm. It hurts society big time.
Which brings us to your third or
Just,
fourth point here. Society is corrupt.
yeah.
Again, that one's not a
So,
shocking statement to me. I think, like, if you had said society is not corrupt, I would have been very shocked.
yeah, yeah. So I, I first looked at what is society, because people, I mean, all of us, me included, we use that word so often.
Mm-hmm.
Society is this, and I wonder who is society. So I looked at that, and Society is a network of relationships among individuals, groups, and institutions that share a common geographic location, culture, or a set of social norms. Now, you see how, or a set of social norms at the end here. So, the most common thing is geographic location
Mm-hmm.
and culture. So, what we've seen in the recent past is that geographic location,
Mm-hmm.
but culture, not so much, because people migrate
Yeah.
in the thousands, or in some cases in the hundreds of thousands. And then one day you wake up and you see, oh my word, Stockholm doesn't look like there are any Swedes living there. Or, good heavens, certain cities in France or Spain or Italy. Um, there are certain towns in the UK where, if it wasn't for the architecture and a few other things, you would not have known that you were in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So, so different cultures come and take over. And what we've also seen is that social norms, very, very different social norms.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, well, you guys may have lived here for the last 500 years and you may have built this place up, but this statue of this king or this general or this whatever, that offends me and my culture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and a whole lot of nonsense like that. So, so society is just a group of people. So we can look at these different levels of
Yeah.
societies, you know. So in my estate where I live, that's a small society. And then in the suburb or the town that I live, and then in the province that I live, you know, so easy. Oh, us Joburgers versus you Capetonians, you
Yeah.
know, and that type of thing. So we kind of make up these groups of people as we please, you know, and then there's this crossover that happens as and when it pleases us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, every 4 years, we Capetonians and Joburgers, we come together as Springbok supporters. We unite
Yeah.
as a country. But I mean, it's not just the Capetonians and the Joburgers, but you get what I mean. It's just there are these things that make us feel like part of this bigger group.
Yeah.
Um, but the the corruption of society is there where a society is hijacked through the abuse of, entrusted power, um, for the benefit of a small group of people or an individual.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of cases, we see this um, kind of manifest as either a political party or a religious group.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you look a little bit closer, you kind of see that there's a lot of individuals that kind of benefit from that.
Yeah.
So, you know, politicians, local politicians, national politicians, etc. Anyway, and that obviously erodes the trust in that society. So where are we at the moment? We are on national levels. We go, geez, you guys didn't know how to handle this COVID thing. Look at these silly rules that you made from, and again, pick a country.
Yeah.
Let's look at um, South Africa. We weren't allowed to buy a T-shirt because COVID,
Yeah.
or whatever the
Alcohol,
stupid rule was
cigarettes.
that they. Yes, 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 yes. Um, the the Brits had their scandals as well.
Or
The whole
furlough.
Partygate. Yes.
But
So
also, I mean, the fact that
the
they just found money somewhere to pay people for not going to work. And
of
now
course,
we're in debt for I don't know how many years paying
of
back
course,
this money that
of
came out of
course.
nowhere.
Yes. So anyway, so that's just one example. Now we look at most countries are now battling with this illegal immigration problem. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that became quite a big thing in a very short space of time.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't trust their governments. I mean, the mayor of London, as an example, I just use him not because I've got any um, any particular point he takes a hell of a lot of criticism for a lot of these rules, etc., laws that are being implemented that seems to be not about what's good for the city of London, for the people, but other motives. And so we can go through all sorts of the European Union. I don't know how countries are still part of that. They have a bunch of unelected officials, plunging them deeper and deeper and deeper into debt, um, with no actual plan. Anyway, so we see the institutions that lose all credibility, and society crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
What end up happening, what will inevitably happen, is more of what's happening in Haiti. So there are suburbs in Johannesburg where the police are not welcome to enter. And it is publicly stated by some foreign nationals
Mm-hmm.
that if you come in here, we will kill you. Okay, to what extent it's true, I don't know. I can imagine, just knowing which areas they're talking about, is that, well, if I was a policeman, I would also not have gone in
Yeah.
there. Cape Town has its gang wars,
Yeah.
which seem to be escalating quite a bit. It seems to become, quite brazen. What we're running things here. The same thing with in the US. There are certain cities, suburbs, etc., where there's absolute chaos, and these
Mm-hmm.
places are run by. And then you get the Haiti case, where okay, cool. There's just on a national level, it's a small little country, granted, but on a national level, it's a shit show of note, and
Yeah.
it's run by criminals.
Yeah.
And and that is something I think all of us should be concerned about. Doesn't matter how comfortable we still feel in our little society. Where no, it's fine. Where I'm living, we still okay.
Mm.
And again, I'm not 100% sure what the solution to this is. I I go back to the political structures. I go back to the levels of power that people have, which I think must change. Um, but how it must change, I mean that's a conversation for another time, because that's going to take a little bit
Yeah.
of. So I just want to highlight the one thing that I did say here, because this maybe just makes it a little bit more clear. The erosion of trust in all institutions leads to irrational action, the worst of which is to expect and accept powerful interventions driven by fear. Allowing the corruption of society to fester and expand is dangerous. Anyway, so I have a Solzhenitsyn quote in there as well, which it says the simple step of courageous individuals is not to take part in the lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we refer to often is the lying thing. We become part of these lies through the things that we are not allowed to talk about, things that
Yeah.
we are not allowed to highlight or point out. So I think Solzhenitsyn
Who
had a very good point there.
who is he? I haven't come across him.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn is a Russian writer, and I don't think if it's correct to describe him as a political dissident.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are you looking it up? Are you checking if
No,
I'm
I'm just looking through your other points as we're talking about it. Alexander.
okay?
I'm writing down his name so that I can look it up.
I'm trying to remember what he wrote. He's a Russian writer. Um, he actually passed away fairly recently, 2008. Yeah, he was a
Was it?
prominent Soviet dissident.
I was going to say, was it suspicious suicide or?
No, no, I'm not sure. um, best known for his One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Oh,
I'll
the Gulag Archipelago. The Gulag Archipelago is his famous thing. Yeah. So
cool. I'll
Jordan
definitely
Peterson
have a
have
look.
actually, yeah, Jordan Peterson have done a series of talks on,
Okay.
I think, lots of discussion about the Gulag Archipelago. Anyway,
We you had more thoughts than we have time to get through, so
yes.
and it
Uh,
sparks lots of thoughts, and I'm definitely going to be researching a little bit about IQ and IQ testing um, after this. Something that I've always been quite fascinated with and interested in, and I think I'm of the 95% that I think I'm of higher intelligence than the average. But it would be good to know for sure.
the thing is well, if you find out where you lie in it, what will you do with it? So I definitely think that there's value in that,
Hmm.
value in knowing. Um, like I said earlier, in the same way that understanding yourself, and doing a personality test that has some real value, etc., kind of help guide you and um, inform certain of the decisions that you have to make in terms of career, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So I think there's value in knowing where your IQ is. I have a fair idea where my IQ lies, but that is based on an IQ test done many
Yeah.
years ago. So it's also something that I'm quite interested in is if I can find something that I feel is credible enough to give me an indication now, I'll do it again. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. I don't know. I may feel like, okay, geez, you've gotten away with a few things here over the years. Whew. Um, but I don't think I will be disappointed as such.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe maybe it'll help guide me and say, okay, cool, you are not going to in your second act, um, this new career that I'm looking for. You know, don't think you're going to become a world famous violin player or brain surgeon or
Yeah.
whatever.
Chess
So
grandmaster.
yeah, so maybe there's some help or some guidance there. But what do you think if you find out that well, whatever where you are on that spectrum,
I'd want to
how
know
will it
where
help you?
everyone else that I know is too, so that I can either gloat or apologize for them always being right.
No, no, no. You know what? You're touching on a very interesting thing there. So when we get these really smart glasses, where we kind of have these little thingies, instead of just looking at somebody and kind of getting their Wikipedia page or their
Hmm.
LinkedIn profile, oh, please, not their LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
but um, instead of just kind of getting the okay, cool, that's the name, that's the telephone
Mm.
number, that's the email address stuff. What if we get that is the personality and that is the IQ? We don't even have to go specific.
Yeah.
Just give us an indication. Don't you think that that will help you when you have to deal with other people?
Yeah. Well, it would help me decide who I want to have a conversation with when I enter a room,
Yeah,
who I'm willing
yes,
to listen to advice
correct.
from, and
Yes.
yeah. uh, in Dragon Ball, they have those little visors where they can see the power level of their opponents. That's just what it makes me think of.
so,
Be like
so like a
spotting, like,
power
oh.
level. Yes, so like a power level
Yeah,
type of thing. No, I think it'll help a hell of a lot because we are constantly kind of engaging with other people, and some of us we're looking for these opportunities of who can I learn from,
yeah.
who can I start an engaging conversation with.
And at the moment, I think a lot of people choose those people based on charisma, which has got
Yeah,
fuck all to do with intelligence and intellect.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And look, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I've had the experience of whether where you start a conversation, you think, well, there's an opportunity to kind of explore something and so on, and then have the conversation kind of blow up in your face because the other person is not as interesting or I wouldn't say clever because it's not clever, but um, you know, yeah, summed the
Wise.
situation up incorrectly or whatever.
Mm,
Yeah, becoming defensive or
mm.
whatever when it was not a question of being a personal attack or anything like that. It was kind of like asking questions. Um, anyway, so I think for that reason, it would help me. But certainly you know, from an employer point of view, and I can understand where this can go wrong. But
Yeah.
as a small employer who have the best of my employees at heart,
Hmm.
knowing we people, knowing how to guide them and where to guide them, etc. That feels to me like is a kind of like a big lever potentially. that I can't utilize
Mm.
because it's not polite to ask, or it's
I think you're gonna have to find that IQ test and send out a voluntary. You can volunteer to take it. That'll
yeah,
also tell you something about the people that you have working for you, the ones who choose not to take the test. Will say something
yeah.
about their confidence and self belief and self awareness.
I'll have to think about that. I do know that I want to implement it for all new hires.
Yeah. Are you allowed to?
And
Just in.
I, apparently, maybe not.
But who's
Um,
checking?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm exploring that.
Okay. I think we're gonna have to revisit this IQ conversation at some point.
Yes, you
Um,
do a little bit of research.
find an
Find us one
IQ
that we can
test.
do.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
yes.
find a few and do a few. See if they all come
But
out
just
with the same
having,
kind of results.
yes, but just having a little bit more of an awareness of IQ, and you look at. So I I know it's not fair to just judge. Look at somebody making on, I don't know, in the media making a statement, or your least favorite politician going, oh yeah, no, of course that IQ is, you know, I definitely, that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't try to, but good heavens, I mean, we see a lot of that, especially in South Africa, where absolutely people with no experience, no qualifications, etc., are put in very prominent positions, running a big metropolitan and running it into the ground.
Hmm.
And then you think to yourself, well, you know what? You should never have been there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we get it in a lot of other cases as well. Um, whether it is an interaction with your local bank or with whatever, where you feel like, well, hang on, how did you end up in this? Um, but pay attention to it and see if you can kind of figure out, I don't know, some patterns.
Interesting. Cool. Well, we'll have to go through some
Okay,
more of your thinking another time.
yes,
But
we can
thank you,
do that.
Herman.
Thanks, Ali.